Hello and welcome to Hysteria. I'm Erin Ryan.
I'm Grace Parra Janney.
Grace, you're not Alyssa, but I do have a question for you.
Yes,
Grace, who's the last person you flipped off and what did they do?
Toyota Camry, Valley Circle Drive, 2 days ago, cutting me off in traffic.
Valid. But can I offer a tip to everybody listening right now? I used to be a habitual flip offer because it's just so easy, right? Yeah. I've started making eye contact with people and shaking my head no or giving a thumbs down. And it is like more effective than the middle finger.
That's so interesting. You mean in traffic, like in the car, you will
in
make
traffic,
eye contact.
like give someone a thumbs down or make eye contact and shake your head like you moron, you idiot.
I love that. I love that. Do you honk too?
No. Okay. I'm not a honker unless it's like a safety issue, like you need to pay attention to me and move out of the way. But I don't I don't honk. From now on, disapproving shaking of head and a thumbs down is my new go-to move.
The grandma glance. I love it.
Exactly. Okay, we have some news to get to. Grace is graciously filling in for Alyssa Mastromonaco this week. Alyssa will be back next week. Nobody worry. She's just taking a week off. We should all take a week off sometime. I would love to do that one day. Can't wait. No, it's on the calendar. I'm definitely going to be taking a week off at some point. But Grace, thank you so much for filling in. We're really happy to have you.
A delight as always. I love you, love Hysteria. So happy to be here.
Yes, I'm happy you're here too. I wish that the lead news story were not the same lead news story that we see so many times. And it's so frustrating. And here we are again. Another school shooting. On Monday, a 28-year-old from Nashville fatally shot 3 children and 3 adults at a private Christian elementary school after leaving behind writings and detailed maps of the school and the school's security protocols. They were armed with an AR-15 pistol, a Smith & Wesson, and a 9mm pistol. I don't know guns, but what I do know is that AR-15s do incredible damage to human bodies. And the shooter was killed when police engaged them. It was horrible. Another horrible story. Grace, I would love to hear your thoughts.
It is incredibly frustrating to try to find eloquent words to describe when this happens time after time. I think a mind frame shift that has happened to me is obviously the thoughts and prayers path is frustrating to hear coming from our Congress people. Feels like we should start shifting our thoughts and prayers to them now. That as much as I want to offer as much grace and support and love to the families of the victims, I don't know what it is going to take to force our Congress people to action. Because these kinds of activities, these kinds of incidents are not doing it. So maybe they're the ones who need thoughts and prayers. Maybe we need to start praying for our Republican Congress people so that they can start making the moves that need to happen in order to pass some gun reform. So the accessibility of these arms is at least mitigated in some way.
Yeah. Here's the thing that really drives me up a wall about this. So gun violence is so pervasive in this country that it touches everybody, right? We saw footage of a local news reporter who talked about during her news hit about the shooting. She talked about surviving the school shooting when she was in 8th grade.
I've seen exactly what gun violence can do firsthand. I was in the hallway when the gunman at my school shooting opened fire, shooting and killing one of my peers. And just the shock that moves through your body, I can't even describe it.
We have kids going to college, surviving school shootings in college, who were in school shootings when they were in elementary school. And then we have people like, it's touching people regardless of your party, right? Guns are now the leading cause of death for children and teenagers in America. More than cars. Guns are the leading cause of death for children and teenagers. And it touched Tennessee Governor Bill Lee, who his wife is apparently friends with one of the people who was killed in the shooting. Like, it doesn't, like gun deaths impact everybody. And it's sort of like,
right.
I don't know, we have all these thoughts and prayers. Lee signed a bill in 2021 that allowed people to openly carry handguns without permits.
Mm-hmm.
Without permits. That was
so crazy.
One of his most important policy agenda pieces for the year 2021. And he thanked the NRA for, quote, helping get this done. He hasn't done anything but make conditions more right for somebody who shouldn't have guns being able to access guns and use them in a way that is deadly. Also, we have to give a shout out to Tennessee Representative Andy Ogles, who represents the district.
Yeah.
He wrote, "My family and I are devastated by the tragedy that took place at the Covenant School in Nashville this morning. We're sending our thoughts and prayers to the families of those lost. As a father of 3, I'm utterly heartbroken by this senseless act of violence." Well, he is a father of 3, and in his Christmas portrait this year, 2 of those 3 were holding large guns. Him and his wife were holding large guns. Did you see the caption, Grace?
I did. Yeah. The very atmosphere of firearms anywhere and everywhere restrains evil interference. They deserve a place of honor with all that's good. It's haunting. It's not cute. It's not funny to witness. It's haunting. It's scary. It's eerie. I had to look away. It's an image that is seared in my brain. And my God, I wish it wasn't. But it's an ugly, ugly image.
Yeah, I just think I see that and I'm just like, you're a gross person.
Yes.
You're a gross person. And I hope for his kids. I hope his kids grow up to have more sense than he does and to be better human beings than he is. Because they've got a dad that's a real shit stain. Like a real shit stain.
Yeah. And I feel bad for the kids because I did not grow up with firearms in my house. I did grow up in Texas. So certainly there was an air of familiarity with them being a thing. But I never expressed any interest in them, had no family members who expressed any interest in them. I can only imagine how difficult it would be to disentangle yourself from familiarity and comfort with firearms at a young age if you grow up exposed to them. At such a tender part of your life. So I really feel for them. And man, I just feel so awful for the students who experience this. I mean, apart from the victims themselves, the students who are in these schools. I mean, this, it like you said earlier, it really touches everybody of all parties. And I don't know what it's going to take to get us out of this. But I do feel like it's a very deeply American epidemic, deeply American.
I wonder if the profile of the average gun owner that is really defensive about it is kind of graying. And I hate to be like, oh, let's just wait till the old people die. But it feels like our elected officials are so unwilling to do anything that the only thing that we have is to like just wait for people to pass away of old age and hope that they're replaced by people that have a little bit more sense and a little bit more compassion, a little bit more empathy, and a little bit less insecurity.
Yes, the insecurity point is so apt. I wonder also, I would be very curious to see what the NRA's tactics are in terms of trying to get to people under 30. I don't know how many members there are in the NRA who are younger than 30 or what the approach is to try to appeal to a younger demographic. But I think you're absolutely right that there is a generational shift taking place. I hope that holds. And I hope that the money that the NRA has been able to amass, that they're somehow able to continue to amass, will remain in the hands of those who are super old so that it just kind of dies out with them and isn't something that will continue to be appealing to younger people. Because you're right, if we can get to that pocketbook, if we can get to this generation, I think that that's an approach to make this, at least in some ways, dissipate.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's going to be a little tough, though, as long as America is the world's arms dealer. It's going to be a little bit tough to enforce that on a micro level in our population. I do want to give a toast. We're gonna take a break pretty soon so that we can have our interview. But I want to give a toast, like a bright moment in these really dark times. Are always when you see people who are willing to stand up and actually try to do something, actually try to be brave. I wanted to toast Ashley Beasley, I think a lot of us saw clips of her yesterday. She was a mom visiting Nashville on vacation. And she took over the Fox News airwaves on Monday during a live hit from a reporter.
Aren't you guys tired of covering this? Aren't you guys tired of being here and having to cover all of these mass shootings? I'm from Highland Park, Illinois. My son and I survived a mass shooting over the summer. I am in Tennessee on a family vacation with my son, visiting my sister-in-law. I have been lobbying in D.C. since we survived a mass shooting in July. I have met with over 130 lawmakers. How is this still happening?
She called out the country's lack of gun safety. She herself is a survivor of a mass shooting. She was at the July 4th parade shooting in Highland Park, Illinois, and she was a block away from Covenant School on Monday, where she was visiting relatives, and she heard shots. And she said, aren't you guys tired of covering this? Aren't you guys tired of being here and having to cover all these mass shootings? How is this still happening? How are our children still dying? And why are we failing them? And these mass shootings will continue to happen until our lawmakers step up and pass gun safety legislation. I mean, what else can be said?
Incredible. And I wonder how everybody at Fox felt in that moment, because there's something so raw and so powerful and real and unscripted about that response. I am delighted that she was able to get that on camera. You know, that's awesome. I mean, it's a moment that I think that's going to continue to resonate for a while. I'm very proud of her. You know, it's hard to find voices that you feel proud of in these moments, but Ashley's definitely one of them.
Yep. And here's hoping that people who prioritize gun access over the safety and lives of children start losing elections over it, because it's past time for them to start losing elections over it. Okay,
Yes.
We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're talking about the Equal Rights Amendment again. So stick around. And welcome back. On this podcast, we talk a lot about how women aren't going away anytime soon. And so neither is the Equal Rights Amendment. Our guest today is the perfect person to talk to us about that. She is the president and CEO of the ERA Coalition and the Fund for Women's Equality. She's also a professor at Georgetown Law, a licensed social worker, and a member of the board of Pro-Choice Virginia. Please welcome Zakiya Thomas.
Thanks so much for having me.
Zakiya, so glad you're here. What led to you joining the ERA Coalition?
So my life actually led to this moment. I joined the ERA Coalition in June of 2020, so I've only been on the job about 8 months or so. But it's the perfect job, and I love it so much because every day I get to talk about equality and why it's still so important for us to have an Equal Rights Amendment in our Constitution. So my path is one of working in campaigns and working with nonprofits. So this is the perfect blend of using my experience as a campaign manager and working with in the political realm, and also working with nonprofits to advance a cause. So at the ERA Coalition, we are a movement of movements. We are made up of over 280 partner organizations representing 80 million people. And so really we come from different areas, different focuses, but at the core of the work that we do, all of these organizations and individuals understand that sex equality is important, and without it, our country won't be able to progress and many people will still be left behind.
Mm-hmm. So this week, representatives announced the first congressional caucus for the Equal Rights Amendment, which, quote, aims to affirm the ERA as the 28th Amendment and establish constitutional gender equality as a national priority. How do you feel about this news? Does this mean anything? Like, what's going to happen as a result of this?
So we actually had a press conference yesterday to announce the ERA caucus, and I'm just excited. We have such dynamic and influential leadership on the Equal Rights Amendment and pushing this cause over the hurdle. It's 100 years in the making for the caucus alone, and the fact that 100 years ago this month was the first introduction of the Equal Rights Amendment into Congress. And so the new movement, the new energy, the new excitement that is around the Equal Rights Amendment is important because, unfortunately, the vast majority of our country thinks we already have an Equal Rights Amendment, which means they don't understand that we still need to push and fight this fight. So I'm very excited because the more people we have engaged, the more folks like you who are talking about the Equal Rights Amendment with me and with others, the closer we are going to come to making equality a reality, because more people will understand and appreciate that our rights are being rolled back. And this is one way in which we can fight against that.
Mm-hmm. So the word woman doesn't appear in the Constitution, by the way, which
it does not.
Yeah. Wow. That's, I guess maybe the founders never intended for there to be women. The ERA was first introduced to Congress in 1923. How has the fight for the amendment evolved over that 100 years?
So we actually have more support now than we've ever seen for the Equal Rights Amendment. 8 in 10 individuals think that we should have the Equal Rights Amendment in our Constitution and that sex equality should be a reality. And you make a very good point. The founders of our country, they wanted women, but for a particular reason. Like if you think about when our Constitution was written, it was written for and by white landowning men. The vast majority of others in this country were property. Women were property. People of color were property. And so if we want to see ourselves in the Constitution, we have to have ourselves in there, which means we need an Equal Rights Amendment because it protects everyone against sex discrimination. So that's really what this fight is all about, is making sure that you can see yourself reflected in the most foundational document in our country and part of our law, and making sure that people understand that, just because you're making sure that everyone has equal rights, it doesn't take away anything from anyone else. It's all about evening out the equality, making sure we all have the same protections.
Mm-hmm. So you're a legal scholar. As a legal scholar, how do you see the ERA's ratification kind of upending some of the conservative battles against women's rights and LGBTQ rights that conservatives have won over the last decades?
So I'm actually not a legal scholar, but all the legal scholars that I work with, and I work with many, they say the same thing. The Equal Rights Amendment would empower Congress to create laws to rectify the wrongs that are currently existing in our country. And so really it is a tool for not just Congress, but for the courts and for individuals to fight back against discrimination as we see it currently in our country. Right now, there's no protection against discrimination. And as we saw in the Dobbs decision last year, the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment, which was used to protect against discrimination in many forms, isn't being read that way anymore. Those protections are going away. And so if we don't have the Equal Rights Amendment as a foundation, we're just going to continue to see our rights being stripped. I mean, if you read Justice Thomas's concurring opinion, he listed all of the rights and all the protections that they're going to go after next, because if the 14th Amendment Equal Protection Clause doesn't apply in these cases, then they're up in their fair game.
Mm-hmm. Zakiya, what is Woman Corp?
Yes, Woman Corp is awesome. So Woman Corp is a campaign we created. Ogilvy is, we are now one of their celebrity causes or their charity causes. Ogilvy helped us put together this PR campaign.
Welcome to Woman Corp, a corporation built on years of oppression and deep, deep institutional sexism. Oh, I love that one.
Which basically highlights how ridiculous it is that our government will continue to fight and protect and expand rights for corporations where they're rolling them back for women. So we did the only thing we could think of. We actually incorporated a company and called it Woman, because it is the only company in America that the government will actually fight to protect. So it's fantastic. Okay. If you haven't seen it, go to womancorp.org. It's fantastic. You'll see our board of directors on there. I've actually updated my LinkedIn profile for Woman Corp to say I'm the Chief Outrage Officer. I encourage everyone to go to LinkedIn and add their own title there too. So Erin, I don't know what you would choose. What would you choose if you were a Woman Corp employee?
Oh, Chief Petty Officer for sure. Because I'm petty. I'm petty as fuck. I'm petty as fuck, and I can hold a grudge for forever and ever and ever. That's amazing. Have you considered founding a woman religion, because I feel like this court is giving religions a lot of protection too.
No,
Church of
that's
Woman.
A great idea. Yeah, Woman Church.
We could do
Church of Lady.
Woman.
Yeah,
Our Lady of Ladies.
Yes, that works.
We did it. We came up with something. This is a great writer's room. We've got some writer's room energy going on here.
We're good.
So this has been going on for a century. This fight to get the ERA ratified. You and I have only been alive for part of that century, but we've seen kind of a lot of the most discouraging points in that battle. So what gives you the hope and strength to keep pushing?
So it's sad to say that I have less rights than my grandmother did when she passed away 10 years ago. That should just not be the case. Because of the Dobbs decision, the bodily autonomy I thought I had isn't there, and there are other protections and we see are being rolled away. So what gives me hope is this new energy that we see. We have a lot of young advocates who understand that the culture wars that are being used to divide us don't make sense. At the end of the day, if they're looking towards their future and they realize that they're going to make so much less over the course of their career because of the wage gap and because there's pay inequity, and that's a problem that they need to solve. And it's not just women. men, transgender individuals, boys, girls, it's for all of us. We need to understand and appreciate that the status quo isn't working for the vast majority of us. And we have so many new people in this fight. And as we saw with the Equality Caucus, the ERA caucus that has just been announced in Congress, the leadership of that are Black women who are very influential, very dynamic, and who are taking this mantle on, because historically our movement hasn't been very diverse. And I think that's to our detriment. So we're making sure that we are a broad, inclusive, intergenerational movement, because when one of us is being attacked and torn down, that affects all of us, because any one of us could be next. So if you're attacking trans individuals, if you're attacking young people, if you're attacking women's rights, then who are you going to stop coming after? And that's really why I'm very hopeful, is because we see this intergenerational, intersectional movement that is pushing forward and trying to get this done. And it's well received. As I said, 8 in 10 people in the country already think we should have an equal rights amendment, and that support is growing.
Well, Zakiya Thomas, thank you so much for stopping by, and come by again after the ERA has been ratified and you're having like the, weeks long celebration of that victory.
Well, thanks so much for having me. Appreciate your time.